Hello and welcome again to the Memoir channel. Today I'm going to be chatting with Dawne Archer about her memoir, Trek a Girl Morocco Bound. So welcome, Dawne.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So I know you said you're in England right now, but where are you usually?
Oh, wherever I be. Wherever I happen to be, yes. Wherever I lay my hat.
So are you traveling a lot?
Fair amount, yes. Yes, we've got a motorhome. We tend to buzz around in that, so that's good fun. I'm sure I'll tell you a bit more about that later. But yeah, when I went on the trek that we're going to talk about, that I wrote about, then I was based in Spain.
Okay. Yep. So yes, I guess just give a little brief what the book is about, because I mean, kind of just a quick thing.
What the book about? Yes, Trek a Girl Morocco Bound. Well, Trek a Girl is me, obviously. Morocco Bound. Yeah, I went to Morocco. I went on a trek through part of the Sahara Desert in a group. It wasn't something that I would be capable of organising myself, but I joined a group and it was for charity. The charity I support is Thrombosis UK, and no doubt you'll allow me to witter on about that later on.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very important to me, and thrombosis has affected me and my family greatly in the past and affects me every day. So I thought, right, yes, let's do this.
So I'm sorry, was the trek, this Morocco trip, was that specifically after you'd had this blood clot, or are you always doing treks and adventures?
This was a one-off. It's a long story, and I kind of cover it briefly in the book. Back when I was 16, my family had to move very suddenly, and I was about to take exams. So it wasn't thought to be a good idea for me to move just before them. So another family took me in, and Sarah, my trekking companion, went home and asked her parents if she could have a sister because she was an only child.
Oh, that's very nice.
They rather rashly said yes. So I cover that in the book. But we lost touch for a good 25 years or so. And when we got back together, we did that thing where we were both in our late 40s, chatting about what we'd done. We were both divorced, what we wanted to do in the future. And yes, well, something came up while we were chatting away, probably over a glass of red wine. What about doing something? Do we want to do something together? And really, that's how it came about. A phrase, in fact, you've mentioned, is there a sentence in my book that I would say that I really like? Yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time. So over a glass of red wine and some reminiscing, we'd been talking about the kind of charity treks or charity events that were very much, they were quite new back in 2012, which is when we did it. And it seemed like a bit of an adventure. So we kind of tossed the idea to and fro for quite a while. But yes, I'd like to say I blame Sarah for it, but she blames me. So the pair of us decided to embark on this trek, which was a fundraiser. So it was kind of one of those things where you could raise some funds yourself and pay for the trek through the fundraising, but we decided to pay for it completely ourselves. So every penny donated went directly to our charities.
And did she do the same charity as you?
She didn't. No, she did a breast cancer charity because it's important to her. All of us on the trek had different charities. It wasn't one that all went for the same one. I wish it could be. I would like to do one just for Thrombosis UK with lots of people. Maybe that's my next project. I don't know. We'll see.
So, okay, let me ask you a few questions about the actual memoir writing process. So, first of all, how long did it take you to write this?
Oh, ages and ages.
Really?
I didn't actually decide I'm going to write a book about this, and I certainly didn't decide I was going to write a memoir. It was a case of I went on the trek, spent some time recovering, which if you read the book, you'll know why. And I just met someone to party, and he said, I run a writers group. Do you want to come along? And I thought, well, why not? And that's where it came from. He said, write about what you know. And I thought, well, I've just done this. Why don't I write about that? I had no idea what I was doing. It just kind of evolved, and the group guided me, really. They kind of, I'd go along and I'd take a chapter, and then they'd pull it apart, and I'd go away and start again, like you do. So it did take a long time. It took several years to come.
Are you thinking 4, 5 years?
At least. Well, I went on the trek in 2012. I probably started writing in 2014. I first published in 2017. So 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
All right, that's. I think that's about average, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I haven't read it, so I don't know, but was it obviously this experience, you said something happened, so you had to have a bit of a time to come down and recover from that?
Yes, I had to recover physically and mentally, actually. I think it's easy to underestimate these things. That obviously it was a physical challenge, a big physical challenge. You know, I'm not a roughy tufty person, and I was well outside of, if you like, my comfort zone. And it took an awful lot of effort to get physically fit enough to do it. And I had several issues along the way, which made it even harder. Right. So physically to recover, but mentally as well, it was very demanding to kind of do it. It also had a lot of connotations, because I was raising funds for Thrombosis UK. My dad died of a blood clot, so he was always in my mind. I didn't write it as a cathartic experience, but there was that in there. And actually doing the trek was similar. And when you finish, well, I actually write about it. When we finished, you know, we were all in bits, absolutely in bits, because we'd pushed ourselves, and we'd probably been living with it for a year or so while we did our fundraising. And all of a sudden we'd done it. We'd walked over the finish line, and
well done.
It's a huge emotional thing. It really is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, were you worried about your physical health then because of having this thrombosis, or having? I know that this is once you get a blood clot, are you more prone to get another one?
It very much depends. Yes, you are, but the risk factor varies depending on the reason that you had the blood clot. In my case, I've inherited, if you like, a mutant gene that makes me more predisposed to clotting in any given situation. And I happen to have inherited it from both my parents, which is very unusual, and makes me extremely high risk. So I actually had blood clots back when I was 26.
Yeah, it seems quite young. Is that young? I don't know what age.
Well, a lot of people associate blood clots with older people.
Right.
It's not the case. Many young people have clots, particularly it can be women on the pill, and it can be women and men these days who do a lot of gaming and sitting still in one position for hours on end. That's big risk. Big risk. So it does depend. But yes, I was relatively young. That was partly why I think I was misdiagnosed. I'm certainly lucky to be here because of the misdiagnosis. Yeah, you can't blood clot, you're only 26. There we are.
So, and then did you just self-publish, or did you get a traditional publisher, or how did you go about that next step?
I self-published. Yes, I did. It was a massive learning curve.
Isn't it?
Really,
it's not easy. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, your first hurdle is actually writing it, and you write it and you think, wow, that was the hard bit over with. And I don't know how it seems for you, but then you realize that publishing is really, really complex. let's
It
say,
is.
and I had no experience at all. I had no idea what I was doing. And quite frankly, anybody who says, I couldn't do that, I would say to you, well, if I did, you can. You really can. But there's a lot more. I know how to access help now, which I didn't then.
What did
And then,
which platform did you use? Do you remember?
well, I used KDP through Amazon.
But I mean, to actually make the ebook or to make your cover, how did you go
All
about?
through
It
all
was all
through
through them.
KDP.
Ah, oh, okay.
Yes.
So they offer like
Yeah.
a full service.
Well, you do it yourself.
Right.
I did formatting, uploading.
But they give you sort of the tools and guide you a little bit, or
Oh yes, yeah, they do. Well,
okay,
basically,
I
they
didn't
tell
know
you if
that.
it's not right. They tell you if it's not right. They tell you
They
if it's
tell you
right.
it's not right.
Yes, and then you
Yes.
go away and start again. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's relatively. It can be relatively simple if you've got. I made. Well, I say I made the mistake. I don't think it's a mistake. I'm glad I did it. But I have photographs in the book, and I don't know if you've ever uploaded photographs into an ebook, but there
Yeah.
is quite a.
And they just suddenly move. They just appear somewhere
Indeed.
else.
They do. They shoot off in all
Yeah.
sorts of
Yeah.
directions, and they
And
think,
then they're
well, so
huge. Yeah,
yes, and they
it is very difficult. The ebook,
Mhm.
I think, is the most tricky part
Yes,
because it's really hard to
yeah,
format.
yeah.
But I think it's easier now because, they're making it easier and easier for people to do.
Yes. There are
Yeah,
templates. There are templates that you can
yeah,
upload to in the first instance, and yes, I would say it can be relatively straightforward, but
yeah,
it has to be right. And if it's not quite right, then you get batted back again, and you have to
yeah. So
review.
are you writing another book? What else is going on?
Oh, it's a very good question, isn't it? I like to say that I'm making the memories that I'm going to write about.
Okay,
I've
well, I
got
like that. That sounds good.
yes,
Yeah,
I've got lots of ideas, and yes, there will be in the future. But at the moment, I keep scribbling things down. I don't know if you do that yourself. Ideas, and then I think,
oh,
oh,
it's always here.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, when you wake up in the middle of the night, where's that notebook you're supposed to have beside your bed
yeah. So,
to scribble
is there a
down?
favorite part of your book that you might want to read for us?
Well, I've got a couple of short sections.
Yeah,
If
that's fine.
that's
That'd
okay,
be nice.
I thought if I read the first page of the first chapter, basically, because it gives you a kind of rounded view of what's
Yeah,
going on,
absolutely.
and then a short but funny incident that happened on the trek.
Absolutely. Let's do
She
that.
says, I shall blush when I read it, but
Okay.
I asked myself, not for the first time, what was I doing? How had I ended up in the Sahara Desert, slumped wearily in a dusty camping chair? Collapsed right alongside me, Sarah, my childhood friend and plucky travelling companion, looked every one of her 52 years. Goodness knows I wasn't any better. Our bodies were feeling the pressure. I hadn't expected this. Boots held together with gaffer tape, painkillers at the ready, and every move a triumph of determination. Soaked in sweat, with sand stuck to the layers of high-strength suntan lotion, I felt unbearably itchy and very smelly. I had been determinedly using 2 walking poles to push myself through the ever-shifting sands, taking great care not to jar my already ravaged back. Having suffered potentially fatal blood clots at a relatively young age, I was trekking to raise funds for the charity Thrombosis UK. Anyone who has survived them will realise I already had enough to deal with. Losing my precious sun hat was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was no joke. It was essential protection against the murderous power of the sun. The intense Sahara heat, dehydration, and prolonged activity were a dangerous and possibly deadly combination for me. With my fair skin and despite thick hanks of blonde hair, it left me unprotected against the harsh and unforgiving elements. How had I got myself into this predicament? So that's how
Yeah.
we start.
Yeah, how indeed.
Yes, what was I doing there? And this, hopefully this will give you a chuckle.
Okay.
This is into the trek, and we've come across some derelict houses, and they're full of sand, and we're just kind of having a wander around. So while poking around some of the derelict houses, my imagination was running riot. I could almost hear the laughter of children playing as their mothers, swaddled in layers of blue cotton, leaned against door frames chatting to their friends. Keeping one eye on their families, eyes sparkling, their giggles would erupt as they exchanged the latest village gossip. Perhaps the sun was beginning to get to me. Our chatter left the echoing silence untouched. If those walls could only talk, we would have had a living history lesson. It was good to have time to indulge in such visions, but practical matters took over during our early lunch stop. Realising the ruins gave some privacy, Sarah and I wandered off for the essential comfort stop. Girls always seem to go in pairs. There we were, gossiping about the day so far, exchanging snippets of news gleaned from our fellow trekkers, when the very worst possible thing happened to me. I was squatting awkwardly when I felt a sharp dart of pain and my back locked up completely. Finding it impossible to lever myself upright, I completely lost my balance and rolled forward into the soft sand. "Oh no, help!" I yelled, knickers around my ankles, all semblance of dignity gone. Sarah burst out laughing. There you are, with no thought for my composure. I couldn't blame her really, as I must have made quite a sight, with my ankles tangled in clothing, toilet paper in one hand, bum firmly in the air. "Oh, my giddy aunt," she gasped, absolutely beside herself. "That's hilarious. Are you okay?" She finally managed to get out amidst the giggles. "Do I bloody look okay?" I snapped, obviously not seeing the funny side of things. However, catching sight of my mate wiping away tears and trying not to snigger, I suddenly saw myself through her eyes and burst into fits of laughter too, as I lay there, completely immobilized in the sand, which was rapidly working its way into my important little places. Now, where's my camera when I need it? Oh, don't you dare. Give me a hand up, you daft cow, before someone sees me. Looking up, my loss of dignity was complete. Some of the crew had stopped loading gear onto the truck and stood chuckling and pointing in my direction. Totally humiliated, I tried to amble nonchalantly back, painfully aware of the stifled laughter of the rest of the group. I think most people had a good laugh at my expense, although it was a while before I could relax enough to have a giggle with them.
Ah,
So
you
there you
poor
go.
thing. Yeah.
It was just what I was just, yeah, what can you say? It was funny, but it was probably funnier for me in hindsight.
Right.
But
Yes, not at the time. Well, what
no,
was one of your favorite memories from that trek?
my favorite memory, I think it was the emotion of walking across the line at the end.
Mhm.
We'd all been, everybody walks at different paces. We were all straggled out. I was always at the back, at the very, very
Mhm.
back. I was
Mhm.
really struggling to move. And someone said, "Oh, let's all walk together." And we all held hands and just walked across the
Ah,
line. And the emotion that hit us was like a wave. It was a really, it makes me fill up when I think about it.
yeah. Oh, that's very lovely. That's a very touching and profound moment.
It
Thanks.
was profound, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you all remember while you're there, and you've been struggling with practical matters and trying to get, we were camping out in the desert. It
Mhm.
was it was hard going anyway if you didn't have
Mhm.
any other physical issues going on. And so you rev yourself up every morning to keep going, long days of walking. And it was just a relief to walk over the line, but a
Yeah.
release of the tension and the emotion as well. Yeah,
And
memorable. It was memorable.
I mean, was it pretty hot? Obviously, if it's in the desert, but did you go at a time of year when it was a bit cooler, or was it?
We did. We went in November.
Okay.
So, in fact, we had sprinkles of rain on the last day, believe
I
it
see.
or
That
not.
actually sounds really lovely. It's
Yes, it wasn't
raining in
cool.
the desert. I don't know.
It wasn't cooling rain. It was very. It made you feel. It became very humid
Hmm.
in the
Sort
air
of
became very
muggy. Yeah.
very.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had one night with thunder and lightning and big winds, and we had
Oh,
very. Do you remember the old style canvas tents? Not the
yes.
sort of thing we have now, but the sort of thing that the Girl Guides of the Boy Scouts probably had years
Hmm.
ago. And so there were lots of ropes kind of holding together the canvas, and it was very old style canvas. So the noise of wind and sand being thrown at them, it was tremendous. Yeah. So we
Mm.
had a variety of weather. The temperatures didn't bother me too much because I was living in Spain at the time, so I was used to higher temperatures. But yeah, you
Are you, do you want to go back?
to Morocco or the
Hmm.
Sahara Desert.
Or to the desert, actually, I'm thinking. Does it sort of have that magnetism that you're like, oh, I have to experience that again?
It's a thing. I do have a thing about deserts, I think I would say. Yes.
Hmm.
But I don't think I necessarily need to go back there. Morocco, yes. I don't. Have you ever been to Morocco?
I haven't yet, no.
Right,
And
we'll
it's right
do.
across the way here because I'm in Portugal, so I feel like it's
Yes,
pretty
it's an
close.
easy one. Yes,
Hmm.
it's an easy one
Hmm.
for you. I really like Morocco. The further south you go, the I find the people friendlier and easier to get on with. But
Okay.
it's a land of contrasts and color and smells, and you can when you if you go across on the ferry, you can smell Morocco, and I
Hmm.
mean that in a good way.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
all the
smell,
spices and
yes, you can smell the rosemary that grows in the mountains, and yeah,
mm,
it's
mm,
a wonderful country, and really worth visiting. I would go back to Morocco, and along the way, yes, I would no doubt poke my nose.
yeah.
In Morocco now, they've made it very easy for visitors to have a little taste of the Sahara Desert. You know, you can go on a trip and stay in a Berber tent overnight and that kind of thing. It's
Hmm.
not the real thing. Well, it is, but very
Right, but it's just a little, like you said, a little
plain.
taste, a flavor.
Indeed, a little
Yeah.
taste. Yeah. So,
And
but there's lots of other deserts out there to visit yet.
that's true.
Mm.
More books to write, more deserts to conquer.
Yes, more desert to
And then
conquer.
when you're writing, do you write in solitude? I mean, I know you said you were part of a writers group, but when you actually go and do your
Mm.
work yourself, do
Mm.
you want it to be quiet? Do you want to be alone, or do you like to be out in a
Mm.
coffee shop with movement and noise? What do you prefer?
I I generally write at home
Hmm.
with no music or anything, but that's because if I put music on, it just I become so focused on what I'm doing that I lose all that.
Hmm.
I guess I could write anywhere, but it's sort of nice to go to somewhere maybe with a desk or a table and just focus on what you're doing.
So you like to be you like to be at home. You prefer it.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, okay. And
Or in a space that's mine. It doesn't matter
yeah.
if it's actually in the house I'm living in or anywhere else. But yeah,
And then what advice do you have for anyone that would be thinking of writing a memoir?
same advice as I'd give to anybody thinking of writing any kind of a book.
Hmm.
Sit down and write it. Just
True.
write it. Well, you can read about writing. You can read about how to write. You can read about how to publish. But all of that deflects from the actual thing. If you don't sit down and put it down, I would say on
Hmm.
paper, but that's old fashioned, um, um, then it will never happen. And it doesn't matter if it's not very good. It doesn't matter if it's not good grammar or good spelling or anything like that, because all of that can be sorted out later.
Do
Just do
you
it.
right? Do you think that the fact that you had this writing group helped you actually? Did I mean it motivated you? It got you to actually do it.
Yes,
So you,
definitely.
so maybe that
Mm.
would be a good way to go about it, is to find a writing group
Yes,
and join. Yeah.
join a group. Yes, and
Hmm.
also then you start to get a reflection of how your writing's perceived. If people are enjoying it, I found that people would say, right, well, I want to know more about that. and you haven't covered that, and oh, what about that? And I'd think, oh, okay then. And then I go away and review it, and
yeah,
I
it
mean,
really
you can do
helps.
it online as well.
Sorry,
I
say
don't know if
again?
you, I was going to say you can do that online as well. There are lots of groups where you can post a small piece of writing, and but I found the actual physical group quite very useful and supportive too.
Right. I mean, I think they even have AI now that you can just sort of feed it into the computer and it'll tell you, oh, you need to do this, that, and the next thing. I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't tried it, but
No, yes, I'm a little wary, shall we
yeah, no,
say.
me too. Um, and how are your book sales going? I mean, you're just selling through Amazon.
Yes, yes. Well, the more that I was going to say, on your learning curve, when
Hmm.
you've got your book published, then you realize you've got to sell it. You've got to
Right.
market it. And at each step you say, oh, this is the worst. Actually, it's not. Selling your book, I actually naively thought I'll put it on Amazon and people might buy it. Yeah, so anyway, if they don't know it's there, they can't buy it. So the more work I do in promoting it, the more sales I get.
Right.
It's as simple as that. People have to know it's there.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a huge market. You're competing with hundreds and
Yep.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Massive, massive.
So what is next up for you? And do you have anything coming up to do with the
In
book? I
terms of
mean,
to do with the book, well, it's a constant thing, really. I'll do someone will put me in their blog, or I'll do a bit of an interview, and this is lovely to do. Thank you
no,
for
you're
the
very
invitation.
welcome. And do you get to go and do talks for the Thrombosis UK?
No, I don't, but I do a lot of work with Thrombosis UK
Hmm.
now behind the scenes.
Hmm.
So they use my writing abilities to review things that they're putting out, which
Oh, good.
mainly to see if it's in plain English. Is it understandable? I work, or I mean, everything I do is voluntary, and I'm
Hmm.
a patient advocate, really. I'm an ambassador for the charity, and that I'll talk about it at any
No, that's
available
fantastic.
opportunity.
Yeah.
But also helping behind the scenes,
Hmm.
on a couple of steering committees and that kind of thing, which I find I'm really, really pleased to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the most important things is fundraising, but also raising awareness. And I would say that I'm hoping, well, I think my book does that. The publicity I do for the book does that as well.
Hmm.
Raises awareness, because I don't think people realize that 1 in 4 deaths worldwide are blood clot related, and
Yeah. No,
every 6 seconds someone dies of a blood clot. That is astonishing.
that is astonishing,
Astonishing and scary.
and
Yeah,
that's a
it
huge
is.
number.
Yes, I mean
Mm.
the blood clots it's a thrombosis is a very, very, very broad thing. You can have a clot, you can have an arterial clot, which would be a stroke, that
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Right.
What I'm mainly focusing on is a clot in the veins. So you hear of a DVT, a deep vein thrombosis in your legs, and then what's called a PE, which is a pulmonary embolism,
In
which
the
is a blood clot
lungs.
in your lungs. Yes, I had both of those.
Oof.
Um, yeah, it was. I'm very lucky to be here. I am, without a doubt, and it changed my life completely. It stopped me in my tracks. Everything changed.
Yeah, I bet.
Um, but I'm here, and I'm lucky enough to be able to talk about it. But I didn't realize the implications of it until my dad got a blood clot and
Hmm.
sadly died
And
of
that was
one.
after you'd already had yours, right?
It was 20 years after. I had
Yeah.
mine at 26. Yeah, I was 40. Yeah, it
Hmm.
kind of focused my mind, because he said, do you
Yeah.
think I could have a blood clot? And I'm like, don't be silly. No, it's not. What? And of course, then I started having investigations done to find out more, and it's progressed from there. Yeah,
Well, and I know you take medication for it. That
I do. I do now. I've managed a lot of years without taking regular medication, and just being sure that I controlled other things that
right,
are
so it's
within
like
my
diet and
health,
lifestyle, exercising, I
all of
guess.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
One of the most important things is to keep moving. You know, sitting writing. I don't know about you, but I can lose 2 hours without even thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Now, in 90 minutes, which is only an hour and a half, we lose 50% of the blood flow in our legs sitting at a desk.
Oh, that's a horrible thought. I don't know why that kind of is like,
That's true for everybody. Now, some people it will be an issue for, some people not. I actually have I've got one of these. I call it the fit bitch. One of these
Fit bitch.
infernal things
Yeah.
that every 90 minutes it vibrates. And just to say, you need to move around. Just get up, make a cup of tea, get a glass of water,
No,
anything,
that's good.
because you know it is an issue, and that's why the whole believe it or not, there is a thing called thrombosis, which is has come about because of the gaming, and young people in particular will sit for
That's
hours.
amazing. That's shocking.
It
You're so
is.
right, because that's not what people, young kids, when we were kids, nobody sat. We were out
Yeah,
playing and riding
yeah,
bikes and
yeah.
whatever. We didn't just
It's a
sit
very
still.
different. Yeah, it's a very different life now, and very much more sedentary than it used to be. And of course, I hate to bring COVID into it, but that changed everything as
And
well,
that made it
and
worse,
made
didn't it?
people. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, yeah.
It did.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you're okay. And I'm
Thank
glad that
you.
you wrote this book and that you're helping to bring awareness to it. I think all of that is really fantastic. So well done, you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sorry that you fell over in the sand with your knickers around your ankles.
Well, yes, I know. I know it makes for a good story, but yeah, it was very embarrassing at the time. But yeah, what can I say? You have to
Yeah,
have some. There were some laughs. You know, a lot of it was really hard, and I felt grimly determined to
yeah,
achieve what I set out
good.
to do.
Yes.
Uh, but there had to be some lightheartedness in there,
And
and
and did it deepen your relationship with Sarah? Did
yes.
you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We'd been apart for more than 25 years when we got back together. We did this together, and we just kind of said, you know, nothing's going to get in the way. We're in frequent touch now. I mean, it's different now. We've got email and messenger, and you know,
true.
instant messages. And in fact, there's lots of virtual walking apps now, and we can be in all different. There's a group of us all in different countries, and we all put how many steps we've done in a day into this thing, and walk around a country. You
Ah,
know,
all
where
right,
where
good.
where walk around. Oh, we're going to walk across Canada virtually.
Well,
But
that's interesting. I haven't heard of that. So,
really,
no,
there's a lot of them, and you can just do it for yourself.
yeah,
It's just a way of encouraging people to think about walking every day.
yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
like your Fitbit telling you to get up. That's a
yes,
good idea, to set some sort of alarm and remind yourself. Yeah,
yes,
that's a good
yeah,
idea.
it does help. I mean, I'm so used to it now that after an hour and a half or so, my legs feel uncomfortable. They're
Yeah, and
telling me
you
I
know
need
it's
to move.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of a habit now. But it is
Oh.
easy to lose yourself when you're at a desk,
Mm.
or even film. I find the cinema quite challenging actually, because the
Yeah, I mean,
films are getting
they're,
longer
they're
and
about
longer.
3 hours long now. It's like, oh,
I know, 3
yeah,
hours in a cinema,
yeah,
I can't do
yeah.
it. Well, I was going to go with a friend to see a 3 hour film, and I said, well, you do know that I will get up in the middle and go and have a run
I
around the
mean, I
cinema.
watched that Avatar, the second one, the Water World or whatever it was called, and oh my gosh, it was hard to stand up at the end because my legs were just, yeah, they'd been
Well, that's
sitting,
it. That's
and
exactly
I
what
sit
happened.
cross-legged, which I think is worse.
That is a big fat no-no. Yeah,
Yeah,
I had to train myself to to be like the royal family and keep your legs nicely together and kind of.
That's such a nice way of looking at it. Okay, thank you. That's a lovely little image to remind me. I'll just be the royal family.
Yes, the royal family. You know how they sit so very cleverly with their legs just
They do.
they don't tend to sit cross-legged, not in public anyway. It is a big thing not sitting cross with your legs crossed, and I try not to do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't help.
All right. Well, thank you for all of this, and thank you for being
bombarded you with lots of.
No, it was lovely.
Like peppered you with lots of different things.
And then I'll put on this where people can get hold of you from Amazon. I guess they can buy. Maybe it's on Barnes and Noble. Are you sort of on all the outlets?
No, just Amazon.
Just Amazon. Okay.
Amazon. Or me directly.
And do you have a website?
I don't, but I have an email address, which is trackergirl.
Trackergirl.
Outlook.com, so it's fairly easy to remember.
Okay.
And you can find social media on Twitter, on Facebook. So just look for Tracker Girl or Dawne Archer and you'll find me. Perfect. So there's always ways and ways to get a book to somebody.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been nice to meet you and nice to talk.
You too.
Okay, just one thing.
Yes.
If I suddenly disappear, it's a glitch with our internet, and I will reappear.
It's magic.